Hello, everyone. Once again, thank you for coming to our event. We're just going to wait a couple more minutes so then we can get a larger audience. We have about 60 people registered to the event, so I would like to allow them a couple minutes to enter. We now have both of our speakers connected, so that's amazing. Thank you, Koyuki and Nihar, for coming to our event.
Thank you.
If you guys want to go ahead and introduce yourselves in the chat, let us know where you're connecting from. We would love to know where you are listening to us.
Okay, Jenny Singletary. I'm in West Pasco, Florida.
Hi, Jenny. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you for having me.
I'm Gabriel. I'm from South Miami. I'm half into film, well, before the pandemic, and mostly into code, mobile applications, full stack. So yeah, that's about it.
Great. Thank you so much for joining us. I think it's going to be a great event. We're going to have an interesting discussion about machine learning and artificial intelligence. And I think we'll just give them a couple more minutes and we'll start at 6:05, if that's okay with you. Hi, Eduardo and Antonio. Nice to have you here also. Just so you know, I'm going to explain a little how the event's going to go. We're just going to have a panel and discuss a little bit about the issue of the event. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask us via the chat. Our speakers will be more than happy to answer them for you, and we can just have a great discussion.
Great.
Okay.
Should I go ahead and introduce myself?
First I'm gonna welcome all to the event. This is the How AI and Machine Learning Are Changing the Industry. We are For Geeks Academy. For Geeks Academy is a coding bootcamp that was founded in 2015. We are a result of more than 6 years of experience, and as of today, we have campuses in Miami, Venezuela, Costa Rica, most of Latin America, and Spain. And we hope to keep adding campuses to our repertoire. We are a growing community of more than 2,000 graduates, 6 cities and 7 campuses, and we continue growing. Our track record is that 22% of our students that get hired after our programs have a 22% of average increase, and 86% of them get hired within the first 90 days after graduating. We have different memberships that you will be able to access once you join us. We have a Geek Pal, which is lifetime membership. We have our Geek Force, which is the career support track that's going to help you with your portfolio, interview prep, resume writing, LinkedIn profile, anything you can imagine for your career support. And we were named one of the best bootcamps in the world, according to Newsweek, and we are number 34 in the world. These are some of the companies that hire students and our partners, and we're so happy to have you here today. It's going to be a great event. I'm going to let the speakers introduce themselves so we can start.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Koyuki. I'm from San Francisco. I'm the head of machine learning and AI for this company called Headspace. By the way, we just merged with Ginger yesterday. We just announced that. And spearheading a team of 20. So we are creating end-to-end machine learning pipelines, models, both in batch and in real time, and surfacing most relevant content for our users, as well as optimizing the pathways to provide step care for our members. Very passionate about AI and machine learning, and looking forward to sharing my experiences and discussing things with you.
Thank you so much.
Hey.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Hi, Hi, my name is Naher, and I'm really glad about what 4Geeks Academy is doing. And thank you for inviting me and having me with the panel with Keoki. And it's an honor. And I myself have done my undergrad in mechanical engineering. So I was not a machine learning engineer from the very beginning. But as this industry has grown so much, and I realized that the scale of it is ever larger and it's increasing so much. That's the reason I started learning machine learning, and I've done my master's from Northeastern University in Boston in mathematics. Through mathematics is something that I got into machine learning. Right now, I am working at FedEx, where we're building the FedEx autonomous robot called Roxo. So it's like a tiny little robot that delivers products. We're a team of about 25 machine learning engineers developing the bot, and we have about 5 machine learning models over there and a couple of sensors. So we work with sensor fusion, robotics, and real time of what the bot autonomy of the robot. So I think it'll be a great discussion here, and I'm very excited to share this with you.
Thank you so much, both of you, for joining our event. I see we have a couple of familiar faces. Hi, Jonathan. How are you? We're so excited to have you on here. How are you, Jonathan?
Doing great.
Okay.
Thanks for asking.
Okay, so as you know, this event is going to be how AI and machine learning are changing the industry, and how we need more talent because the demand is growing at a fast pace. So as you know, the last couple of years we have been through a pandemic. I imagine we all know, since we're all seeing each other through a camera and not in person. So yeah, we know that this has been a really difficult time for every industry imaginable, and that has forced an acceleration on AI and machine learning. So this is what we're going to discuss today. So first, I'm going to let the speakers talk a little bit about their experience in machine learning and what they have learned from it. If you guys want to go ahead.
Sure. I mean, I can share what we do, right, at Headspace. So
yeah,
so we've got some data scientists working on offline models and creating those recommendation engines, funnel optimization models, and etc. And then we've got a slew of machine learning engineers creating the infrastructure, right? And then also they are the ML. Oh, did I disappear? Sorry. And they're also the ML ops engineers as well, because ML ops is something that we care deeply. So hey, deploying a model is not the end of it, right? It's only the beginning of the model lifecycle. So how do you then maintain a model in production, right? How do you track model drift, data drift, all of that? And how do you then course correct if that happens? How do you get alerted? How do you actually do all of those things? And how do you essentially remove a model from production, for instance, right? Like all of that kind of roll under, I will say, ML ops, and that's something that my team is kind of doing right now. And then we're kind of only getting started, but obviously that is going to be the focus for us. So I would say that nowadays one trend that I actually see is no one is actually building things from scratch, right? Like we are running an AWS shop, pretty much like using all of these AWS services, and we're like packaging everything together into a cohesive pipeline, right? And using SageMaker endpoint, and then Lambda, and etc. So I do, I see that more often. It's like, hey, let's not build anything from scratch. Let's kind of, use the off-the-shelf services and package it, and then be scrappy, and then, get to MVP state, right? So that we can start testing, right? And then I see that more and more, right, happening. So, in terms of, developer velocity, I would say, per model, we don't really spend, a lot of time, right? So typically it's per spring, like in 2 weeks, we'll create a new model. Then we actually do all these, we run these micro, experiments, A/B tests or multi-arm, tests, right, in production, and then really then to pick the winning model or the winning version of the model, and then quickly deploy, right? So we kind of do this iteratively, continuously, and that's how we can actually get to a sweet spot, right? So it's kind of like that has been the ethos for the company.
Great, thank you so much. Okay, so if you guys want, we can start with the little questions we have prepared so we can get the conversation flowing. And as always, if you guys in the audience have any questions, please leave them in the chat so that we can answer them and just keep the conversation flowing and have an interesting event. Okay, so how have you witnessed the acceleration and growth in AI and machine learning this past few years? I had to go ahead.
Oh, at this rate, at how much we're typing, and y'all have noticed that, ever since we talk about something, it comes in our Instagram ads. That is spread everywhere. So AI is growing because data is growing. Because we're interacting with so many people all the time, we're on our phones all the time, we're collecting, we're looking at things. We like every company is only collecting data. That's the reason I think AI is growing at such a high rate. Our compute is also growing. Like Tesla just came up with their new chip. Nvidia is coming up with their even more new chip. Apple is coming up with a M2 chip. Definitely that as the compute is also growing, we can perform and deploy even bigger models. And I totally agree with Keoki. Training the model is just one part of machine learning. Having insights about your data, actually studying what your data is. I think everybody, whether it is Andrew Ng or whether it is anybody, if you listen to them, they only and only talk about how, optimizing your data and creating a good data set is essential because there are very few things you can do, like, to modify your model. You can definitely unfreeze layers. You can definitely fine tune it, but that will only give you like efficiency to a certain extent. So I think you should not get discouraged about listening to such fancy words and everything, because machine learning is more about intuition, how much you can understand what you're doing. And if that is what you're doing, then I think this is the way to go. And I think this is why machine learning is increasing, because so many of us are actually interested in it and we want the robot or a humanoid to do these things and not us to do these things. That's why machine learning is growing, and I think it's going to like reach even higher than what it is today.
Yeah, totally. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think personally, AI, right? And this is by, one of the, magazines, like AI could contribute to 15.7 trillion, right, to the global economy in 2030. And we're only scratching the surface, right? So it's huge opportunity, right? And then obviously we're actually going through this, exponential growth, maybe like even like faster than exponential, right? I think that, with that, right, comes with, all of these responsibilities, right? We're talking about responsible AI. We're talking about ethical AI. How do we actually think about those things? How do we bake, almost, the responsibility, right, into our models, right, into our ecosystems, right? I think that those are the kind of like the new areas of topics that we kind of have to still be mindful of, that we need to be focusing on as AI dominates, right, the global economy. And also, you can think of AI or machine learning as the wave, right? Like, say, once you catch the wave, right, you have to capture the wave, by the way, right? Once you catch the wave, then it's not enough to say, just rest easy, right? You have to really make sure that you stay on the surfboard, right, as much as you can. So, like, how do you do that, right? It's not just, a sprint, right? Like, you have to really maintain that and make sure that you sustain, right, your growth and along with AI. So you can see the excitement that I have towards this topic, and I can talk, endlessly. But I'll say one book I recommend is Singularity is Near. I mean, I'm sure you guys know this book, and it changed my life completely. So, I highly recommend that book.
Thank you so much for your opinions. Yeah, I agree with her completely. I think we are getting accustomed of getting things done for us. Like, if we think of something, we just want it to be there and the computer to think it for us, and we just buy it or whatever. So that's what I think that's also is helping with the growth, since we're getting accustomed to, like, okay, I want to buy a computer, and then you're going to get all the gadgets about it, every possible computer you want to get. So I think that's also why it's getting all the hype and accelerating in such a huge way, especially since we all have been at home just trying to survive this pandemic. So
I
thank you so
know.
much for,
I mean,
yeah,
imagine without all of these things or the internet, right? Basically, how do we even, work or like stay at home? It's just unimaginable. So, yeah.
exactly. It's crazy. So, talking about the pandemic and staying at home, do you think that this pandemic and all that has happened has been a factor of the acceleration?
I think totally. Like everything from there are so many research topics about COVID. So AI is not only like I work in autonomous vehicles, so I know more about that. But I'm sure Kyoki works in a different industry. But AI has been helpful in terms of whether it is biotechnology, biochemistry, and all of these regions as well. So I'm sure developing the COVID vaccine at this rate was a lot of compute and a lot of AI also required. So not only in that industry, but to provide work from home for everybody, to provide like, connectivity at such a range and such a limit, because I don't think Reels on Instagram or TikTok was absolutely this famous or like anything of that. Reels also, the recommendation system is incredible. The other day I was reading and I realized Netflix, that everybody else has different posters. So if I am more into like, rom-com movies or if Kyoki, for example, is into more thriller movies, her poster for the same movie will be different than mine. So everybody is trying to I've never felt more flattered because everybody is trying to customize to things that I like. My computer is customized to me. All the apps are trying to recommend me things I like. I think this is how fast AI is growing, and it is to cater to every single human. So just because we were bored sitting at home, I think every company has worked a lot beyond it to work for us. And
Couldn't agree more. I think they work really hard for us so that, to satisfy us, right? To make sure that we still have fun at home, right? So I think that the answer to your question is yes. COVID, the pandemic definitely accelerated, right? The growth of AI and machine learning globally. I think that personalization, right? The right time for the right person, etc. Really making sure that whole experience is very unique. It's all customized to your liking, right? I think that definitely, that is definitely, what's happening right now. But I think that, soon, and then I see a lot of, companies are already doing this. It's like there is going to be a paradigm shift, right? In terms of what the role of AI, right? So right now it's kind of like AI is trying to, predict what you will like, but soon enough, it is going to actually lead what you'll need, right? So you're not going to be the decision maker, so to speak, right? It's kind of scary, right? Some people say, hey, is that hope or dread? I'm like, it's drope, right? It's both, right? It's really, I think that the future is, it depends on how we create, right? How we leverage AI, right? AI is only a lever, right? So, just start thinking about these issues and discussing this. I think it's definitely a great starting point, but I think that is just again, the space is enormous and then there's endless topics we can actually discuss. But I just want to say, hey, soon, and a lot of companies, a lot of apps are already doing this. Soon it's going to lead, its way, right? To say, hey, these are the things that you should be purchasing. These are the things that you should be, kind of like looking at, etc. So I think that's very interesting to observe.
That is crazy to think that we're gonna have basically someone thinking for us before we we speak clearly. We're gonna be like,
Think about the Apple photo, right? Like now, right? You don't have to organize it. It just does it for you, right? I mean, I feel like that paradigm shift is already happening without us knowing, right? It's like so convenient. We never have to organize our album, right? Like, because it does it for us in a beautiful way. So.
yeah, that's crazy. I've also seen that, for example, during the pandemic, the healthcare industry grew so much with AI and machine learning. That was crazy. I think they had to find different ways to treat patients while staying at home, and I think that was one of the solutions.
That's totally true, right? It's like health is being huge, and then you see a lot of companies and a lot of startups in that space, and then VCs are just pouring money right into that. So yes, it is definitely front and center right now.
I worked on a project that actually detected the onset of Alzheimer's just by looking at MRI scans and everything, collecting the data and actually collecting it. You can actually predict Alzheimer's. So which is great. The entire scope of genomics, that is personalized medicine, has come in the picture. So we don't need to pop pills for a headache or like your vitamin or anything of that sort. We totally have like each pill devised for us. So I think it's coming up really, really fast. And so you not only have to like AI, but like even if you like some other sector, I am sure AI is doing something in that sector as well. So like if you all are biology majors or like even architecture majors or stuff like that, you can club that with AI and be like a specialist. I think it's great.
Absolutely. I mean, I think synthetic biology is huge as well, right? So I think that, combined with, AI, right, it is going to be the future for all of us. And I think it's utopia, by the way.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I work in marketing, and you can see how AI and machine learning are also coming into this industry of the marketing industry, because we need to know our customers. We need to know our audience. So that's what better way than with AI or machine learning to get data and understand more consumers so that we can target our products or anything that we want to them, to tailor it to them. So I think that's also why AI is so important nowadays, and how I think it's going to keep growing in the future, and there's no stop to it at the moment. So talking about the future, what do you think makes AI and machine learning the technology of the future? What are their advantages? I know we have talked a little bit about it, but I would like to get more in depth about the advantages and how is this going to be the technology of the future?
No, please go first.
Can you repeat the question? I think you're cutting off a little bit. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Okay. As we were talking about the future, how is AI and machine learning are going to be the technology of the future, and what are the advantages of this happening?
Yeah, great question. I think there are two things, right? One is to drive down cost, right? I mean, we were using this, telehealth, example, right? It's like, hey, now, right? Like, we can actually find the best pathway or the step care, right, for everyone, right? Not everyone has to see a real doctor, right? Like, it can be a bot, maybe it can be some, a lightweight coaching, etc., right? So, and with AI, with technology, can definitely drive down the cost, right? That's one. And the other is that we can now truly say that, all of these things that we have right now can be democratized, either it's in finance, health, like any sector, right? Through AI, through technology, right? So, I mean, as a matter of fact, I was thinking about, creating maybe a mentorship, platform where, AI can actually be the driver, right? So essentially a mentorship platform where, everyone in the world can actually participate, can be a mentee, or can actually be a mentor, right? So, I mean, this type of, I would say, democratization is what AI can actually bring to the world, right? So it's about equal opportunities, no matter where you live, no matter how you look like, right? It's about really having this equalized playing field and giving opportunities to everyone, and while bringing down, right, the cost, right? So I think it's amazing. That's why, like, I'm pretty optimistic as to how AI can actually be tremendously helpful in our lives, right, in the near future. So that's kind of how I see. Does that answer the question?
Yes, of course it does. So that was a brilliant answer. Thank you so much.
Yes,
So I think
that gives a great deal of information. I'm sold.
I just get too passionate about this, right? So I can go on and on, but hopefully you can see the excitement, the love towards AI.
Yeah. Neha, what do you think?
I totally share the same excitement and the love, because I think working every day is just learning something new about it, because there is so much research going on in the industry. I personally work for autonomous vehicles, so I think I have a little more to share about those. So AI in terms of growth, again, you don't need to drive at all. The Zoox has created a taxi, a driverless taxi, so you probably just need to sit and chill, and then you have public transport also. So then a lot of accidents will be prevented in terms of human error. So a lot of human error will be taken away from stuff like that. And one more great benefit of AI is if suppose 5 people can do like probably read through like 100 documents in a day, AI can go through like probably 1 billion in the same day that it is. So a lot of work will be processed much faster. Banking will become faster. Everything will just become so much more scalable and fast. As now you can see, you can Google Map to like sitting in Boston, I can Google Map and check the weather of New York so that I know what to pack for the week. This is what AI is, honestly. Like I don't think like all of these things seem so like petty to us, but they weren't. So I'm sure that things we can't imagine will become petty later on and then be like, oh my God, we grew so much. So AI is just all about convenience and doing boring things for us and doing overcomplicated things for us, which we can't do.
Love that, love that. By the way, you reminded me of this. It's like right now at Headspace, Edge ML is huge, right? Like, I don't know what I just saw, but like, anyways,
Yeah.
anyways, so Edge ML means, hey, someone's data, because we're talking about data privacy and etc. Someone's data will never have to leave, the device. So while getting the personalized experience. So I know, you guys might have heard Edge Learning and, Core ML being Apple's native ML library that you can actually, take it off the shelf and use a lot of its transformers, right? So with, say, as little as 100 data points, you can actually, create a pretty good model that will actually live on someone's device, right? So that means the data is not leaving someone's device. That means we're not retaining, the company's not retaining, right? The company is not
100%.
keeping the data, right? So it gives a very robust data privacy model, right? So I think, it's all of these, technology, technological advancement is amazing. It's happening so fast, right? And then, we need to be learning and having the growth mindset, right? Of like, continuously learning and also having almost this, mindset of, not know it all, but learn it all, right? Because that's how I see it. It's like it's evolving just so fast that you have to keep going. You have to keep learning, right? Even though, say, you get a job as a, data scientist, as an ML engineer, it doesn't stop there. It's only the beginning of that journey, right? So you got to be like learning. I mean, Google will be your best friend. Stack Overflow is my best friend. I constantly Google, right? Like I forget all this syntax and all that. So yeah.
Yeah, I love it, especially when you say that the data should stay with the users, because I think nowadays people tend to get scared that all of our data is gonna go to like big corporations and they're gonna sell it, and then we're gonna be just robots. And I think people are scared of that. I think that's also why some people are hesitant about AI and machine learning, because they think they're gonna like steal their data and it's not gonna be no longer theirs. But yeah, I think so. It's important that you touch that subject about the data staying with the users and not just with the big corporations. So thank you so much for that. So actually, at 4Geeks, we are launching a new program. It's gonna be about AI and machine learning, because we saw that there was a need for the talent to grow. So we are actually launching that program. It's gonna be amazing. It's gonna be a part-time, and we're gonna try to tackle all the skills that are needed to become a machine learning or AI engineer. So just in terms of that, I wanted to ask you guys, do you think the demand for the machine learning engineers is increasing? Are there a lot of opportunities for newly graduates and people learning to upskill?
I just graduated in May 2021. And trust me, the openings just keep growing. Like I think LinkedIn has like 40,000 positions for a basic machine learning engineer open right now. And startups also, like not only just big companies, because to scale you need more machine learning data science engineers. So I think there is tons and tons of people required for this task. But also I feel like a lot of startups are coming with great ideas of their own. And it is so easy to like start doing something of your own and start thinking. So not only in terms of a market, as not only in terms of a job, but also the market has a great scope, and you can definitely start and like do a tiny project, and later you realize that, oh my God, this actually solves a problem, and you can like develop your own startup. So I think Kyoki is into hiring as well, so I think you can answer the question as better
Hiring,
than
Yeah.
me.
by the way. I'm hiring, but we're expanding. But I think that a lot of the Americans, I mean, I don't remember the number exactly, but I know the majority of Americans, right, their skill set will become obsolete in 5 to 10 years, right? It's not enough to say, hey, you graduate from a college, then your skill set is going to be relevant for the rest of your life. It's not going to be like that from now on, right? You have to keep learning, right? The halftime of your, education, whatever your knowledge, whatever you know, is now going to be it's about 2 to 4 years, right, moving forward. So I think that, yes, keep learning, right? And then the demand, by the way, it is exponential, right? I mean, for sure. As I mentioned that, it is going to be about 15.7 trillion, right? Global economy that is going to be created by AI, right? So there's no shortage of demand, right? So I think that there's 3 things actually I look for when I hire someone, right? Like one is, hey, if you're hired for a data scientist, you have to know the basics. You have to know how to code in SQL and Python, right? You don't have to know it all, everything, but you need to know the basics. 2 is storytelling, right? Communication. It's actually very, very important. It's very rare to find. How do you then, from the data, right? And use your genius of, of data, but then you need to craft a story. You need to tell a story to your stakeholders, to your, business partners. You have to kind of say, hey, this is why I think we should be doing X, Y, Z, right? So that's why it's very important to have strong communication skills, even working as, in tech, right? So the third thing is, again, growth mindset. How do you, first have, I look for first the appetite of learning, of learning new things, and also the rate of applying what you learn, right? So you need to be willing to learn something on the spot and apply it on the spot, right? So for instance, core ML, like I mentioned this, right? Like the whole team pretty much just learned that in like a few days. And then we'll just like apply and we'll package and then we'll create something and then ship it to production. Like that type of like tenacity, grit, and like, how do I say this? Like persistence and, all of those things are kind of required. I feel like, at the end of the day, I want to hire someone that is interesting first, and then also like that actually who has that mindset, right? So it's not always about the technical skills, because a lot of times the technical skills, the technical stuff can be taught with the right mindset, with the right personality, with the right storytelling, communication skills. So that's why those are the things I look for. It's not just, again, hey, can you code? Can you actually do that live coding like there's no tomorrow? That's not about, it's not everything. So
I totally agree. Like,
Great.
I think
You
everything is
mentioned,
available.
oh, sorry.
No,
Go
I
ahead.
think everything is available on Stack Overflow these days. If you forgot syntax, you can Google it and do it. But like, the thing to be on top of your game and continuously reading papers, that definitely, like I interviewed like about 4 months back. I was still interviewing 4 months back, and exactly what Kayoki mentioned are the same questions I also got. Like, they wanted to know, was I willing to learn? They wanted to know whether I believed in their idea. They wanted to know if I had ideas of my own. They wanted to know, like, whether, like, they gave me a problem, like, probably a business model and how I could solve it. They never asked me to code. They definitely asked me to code a little bit, but those were very basic data structures and algorithms and all. They definitely asked me a lot of case study where they threw me problems and I had to think about the idea. So having the right mindset towards AI is more important than having the right skill set, I feel.
That's amazing. Yeah, I think learning is never gonna stop. Especially now since everything is evolving so quickly. We're never gonna stop learning. I think there's always chance to learn something new. So I think that's important. We actually have a question from, I think that's Manuel, that says admissions. What's your daily work activity like? I imagine that. How's your work life? I imagine. What do you do in a day to day?
Oh, since I work at an autonomous driving bot, so I kind of so we have different problems to solve, like different sensors to deal with. So right now I'm working on classifying whether the road is drivable or not. So like if you're traveling down the line. So in terms of AI, the cycle, I refresh my model in the beginning. like, see where my model is. There are these great visualization tools which tell me where my data is. So I start curating my data set and understand what the data is. Half of my day goes in reading about new papers and new technology that is evolving so that I can update my model about the same and keep, manufacturing it. But ML ops is a big part of the day, like, actually understanding the data, curating it, telling the data creation team about what more to go and collect. And I think that's about it. That's what I do. I study half of the day and I work on what I've already worked and try to make it better the other half.
Amazing.
For me, right, I mean, my role is very strategic. So like, I don't really do a lot of the hands-on stuff, though that's my, passion. And that's why I actually teach. I teach on the side. I'm a mentor to a lot of the, data science boot camps. But I would say in the morning, right? So I carve out about say 2 hours. I wake up around 5:30. So I study for like 2 hours. I read all the papers, like all the Medium stuff, like all the blog posting, all of that, right? And then I typically pick one project, a side project that I want to be working on. For instance, like right now, I'm trying to maybe you have heard of this. It's called BERT, right? BERT is this bidirectional, NLP model, but we want to kind of use that and then create our own version of the BERT for rec. So for recommendation engine, right? How do we then, understanding the sequence of things that people are, looking, they're buying, and they're completing in terms of content, then what can we like recommend in the future, right? So I'm trying to open source that for the company. So essentially, how do I actually modularize it? How do I actually create a very, like easy to use interface, right, for all of these more sophisticated models so that people can actually just take and use, like import something, they can just like, do, .fit or .predict, etc., right? So that's kind of like what I do in the morning, but doing throughout my day, usually it's like meetings, talking to, stakeholders, talking to my team, one-on-ones, etc., right? So, and then, a lot of time, bug fixing, right, is part of my job as well. Like I typically bug fix with my team. You will notice, right, a lot of your time will be spent on tech debts, unfortunately. Hopefully, we get it right the first time, but because, the space is evolving so fast, and a lot of time the company will ask you to, hey, push a model quickly, push out the model quickly. So, how do we then make sure that the quality is there while having the velocity is always a challenge, right? It's kind of like, how do you do that, right? But I mean, obviously I don't have the silver bullet, but I think that, be mindful of that and just expect that will be your kind of daily, part of your job. But yeah, and then, obviously I think that, and Har mentioned this, is like data cleansing or getting the right, set of data will be, say, 80% of your time, right? Like creating a model, etc., is not going to be really hard, right? Because we can all use sklearn and stuff. But how do you get to the right set of data, right? How do you then, check, make sure that your data is actually correct, right? Like all of that will take a lot of time, and it's a lot of it's manual, right? Even though we're talking about like very sophisticated technologies, but hey, there are a lot of things that you have to do, like in terms of gut checking, in terms of eyeballing, in terms of just like manual work, right? So that is still going to be part of your job.
Great, thank you so much. So what I hear from this is that obviously, as in any industry, you have to be really like up in the news, in the blogspot, just trying to keep up with everything that's changing, and really like the news that are every day, since AI and machine learning are continually growing and changing every day. I think that's one of the things you need to be really focused on just trying to keep up with everything at the same time. And I thought interesting what you say, Koyuki, about having a side project. I think that also helps you not only with your mindset and trying to grow, but also with your skill set. It's a way to like keep up with like what you have learned and how you can keep practicing everything.
Totally. You're spot on. And also I recommend this, right? Like say you learn something, right? You should be able to teach what you just learned to your friends or family, right? Or if you have a kid, right? I feel like to me, through teaching, because I do a lot of teaching, is the best way of learning, right? So if you can truly, teach someone, right? And then make that person understand what you're talking about, right? And I think that's when you can say, hey, I truly understood, right? I truly, I really, really was able to internalize the concept, right, behind the scene. And that's not easy, right? So kind of like, hey, when you're trying to, learn something, right, that's the level of excellence that you should be aiming for, right, aiming towards.
100%.
That's awesome. If you guys have any questions, you can go ahead and write them up now, because I think we are about to go to the Q&A part of the event. I have loved you guys. Everything you have said has been spot on. I think everyone can agree that your passion for the topic, it's really what's going to shape the technology nowadays. We need people like you guys for just to keep growing and the tech to keep evolving, and especially if you both are women, so that's amazing. I know women in tech is a difficult subject, mainly because there's not a lot of you guys in the industry. So that's amazing that you both are being part and have such a passion for this topic. So if anyone in the audience would like to, you can ask a question, just turn your mic on, or if you want to ask it in the chat, go ahead. We don't have any questions. Oh, yep. What are the skill set required to become a machine learning engineer?
You should definitely have your basics clear about your data structures and algorithms. You should be confident enough to basically code, because that is what I do during my day. You should definitely, so when you're learning, even I'm in the stage of learning right now because I've just started working, more than watching videos and learning and attending class, if you do a side project, how Kyoki mentioned, Kaggle is a great help, GitLab is a great help. You should you should know what is happening in the industry. You should probably, again, how I said, have your basics clear and know how to implement your ideas. I think those are the basic ticks for machine learning. And once you get in it, you will probably learn while working.
I love that. Thank you so much. I think one more thing I will add is ops, right? Because we're talking about ML ops, and then it's obviously ML and ops. So having some knowledge around ops, how it works, that
100%.
world might be helpful as well.
Great. We also have another question, which says, Willie says, basic question, what is machine learning?
Yeah, great question. We should have, talked
Great
about
question.
today, right? It's yes, I mean, I always see this as a funnel, right? You've got analytics, right, on the top, right? And then you got, which is about dashboarding and looking at hindsight, right? It's not about predicting into the future, right? And then you got, maybe data science, which is about predictive stuff, right? Predictive analytics and stuff. And then you've got machine learning, right? Which is about, hey, creating an offline model is not good enough. How do you then integrate those offline models in an online setting, right? In the production setting, so that it can be baked into someone's product, right? An app. So that's machine learning, and then AI, and then robotics, and all of that, right? So I see that as a funnel, right? And then obviously it requires, more, I would say, engineering chops, right? Than pure machine learning, than pure analytics.
Great. We also have, oh, sorry, go ahead. Okay.
I guess it's a twofer, I guess. I was going to ask, one, what is the level of configuration you would need to do to even start a mini side project, like you asked? Like you said, and what would do you have an example of what a side project just to test out what machine learning would be like? Let's say a racing game or something, was the quickest path, I guess?
Yeah, great question. It depends on which, area you're interested in, right? Say you're interested in, say, retail, right? And then I always recommend students and, aspiring data science and machine learning engineers to create an end-to-end stuff, not just the model, right? But also the back end, right? The front end, right? A quick GUI or quick app, right? Because knowing that will be tremendously helpful for you, right? So the back end, the front end, and everything in between, pretty much the machine learning stuff or the model and all that. So then I would say one example could be just creating a recommendation engine, because it's required, it's necessary for every business out there, right? So hey, you can actually go get a public data set, right? Kaggle is the best place. You can just get these like free data sets and all that, right? Say you get a data set of content, right? Lots of content or lots of products, just like Amazon, right? And then, you get someone's, transactional data. That means what are the things that this person has purchased in the past, right? And then use that data set and then pipe it in a way that, hey, you've got a data set, maybe you can actually, use AWS and put it into Redshift or something, right? And then you've got a front end, and then you are going to create this like very quick, right? You could use Light FM, essentially is the collaborative filtering, right? Like if you and I are similar, then whatever that you're purchasing, if I am not purchasing, I should be purchasing. That's it, right? So you can actually do something like that and put that in the middle, right? So now if someone, for instance, the front end is like, if someone, you give a name of that person or a user ID, then the front end should actually spit out the goods or the items that this person should be buying, that you should be recommending to this person based on, the historical purchase patterns and et cetera, right? So that is a standalone, very, end-to-end and complete side project that you can showcase, that you can actually, push to your GitHub and use that as a portfolio project, right? That your potential employers can actually see, right? So you should actually then paste that and share that link, right, into your maybe LinkedIn profile as well as your resume, so that they can go to your GitHub and see what are the things you've been doing. A lot of actually employee hiring managers want to actually see how you code. Can you actually follow the best practices, right? Do you actually have the engineering chops? Do you code cleanly, right? Then do you have the right commands and all of those things, right? Like, yeah, I think that will be the best way, of going about this, if that answers your question.
Okay. Yeah.
Can I also answer this question if that's okay?
Yeah,
So
of course.
I've come from a background that I've not studied coding at all. I was not a computer science engineer, so I studied very much from scratch. This may sound very amateur to you, but my first project was to tell my brother how often he should shave. I literally clicked his picture every single day for about 2 months and then put it in a object detector, and then you can basically test on how fast the beard grows. You can literally code up on how hot the pan, like according to the size of the pan, how hot the oil should be to get the perfect chicken. It's that simple. Just go to Kaggle. Or go to GitHub. Look up anybody's profile. There is anybody's, there are very basic project links, and just read through the code. There are already pre-trained models. Just try to fit in your data. Just read through the code. You'll definitely understand it. Even if you don't understand it, you're fine. Just keep copy pasting the entire line of code on Google. It'll tell you what that function or what that piece of line does for you. You can literally look that up, and it's very easy. It's a 2-day job. If you actually concentrate, you feel much more confidence than you can probably do like a recommender system, what she said, or a basic object detection to actually detect which is a dog and which is a cat. And you feel really good after doing that.
That helps.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gabe. We have 3 more questions. So, okay, Justin Chu says, any advice for a self-taught programmer entering the field of data analysis and machine learning?
Please get your statistics right. I think I use statistics more than anything. There's a book called Intro to Statistics Learning. Please have your maths right. If you build up your basic math knowledge, it'll be much easier for you to understand what's written over there or what's written in data science papers or machine learning papers. Please don't get overwhelmed. I think these words are really big and very confusing. And if you Google, you'll simply understand and get your basics right. I think that's all what you need to become a data science engineer, at least today.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think math is a tenet, right, in machine learning, right? You need to know the basics. For instance, linear algebra, right? Like you need to know the basics, right? Because we do a lot of like matrix multiplication and all of that, right? So you need to know the basics of that. Maybe, calculus 101, right? That's it, right? You don't need to know very sophisticated math to be a machine learning engineer or a data scientist, right? But yes, I agree that you need to know basic statistics, right? And that by no means you need to be the expert in stats, right? Like you need to just know the basics, right? But I do think that in terms of coding, right, you need to actually really self-teach you have to teach yourself how to code, right? You have to have the mindset of, being okay with something that's not working and debugging through your own code base. And then all of that scrappiness and then all of that, right, coming with, like, I think that if anything, CS background is more important than math and stats, right? So that's kind of like my personal take. But I think that one thing I will say is repeat, iterate. That's it, right? I mean, it is not going to be easy, and that's why we're doing this, right? It's not super easy, right? Unfortunately, right? And that's my answer. But as you repeat, as you iterate, as you repeat, right? And then a lot of time I Google, I'm like, yeah, I see that I click on this link before. I know I did this before, but I just forget, right? We all forget. So you have to be willing to, go through the repetition and then the iterations, right? Just being very tenacious, right, about this whole journey. I think you'll get there, right? Again, the timeline, it depends how much work you want to put in, right?
Great. We have another question is, what's the starting salary for an AI in the US?
I can speak to San Francisco, the Bay Area, right?
Yeah.
For an intern, right? For an intern, it is about $80K per year for an intern, right? But if we're talking about an actual machine learning engineer, right, in the Bay Area, right, the average is about 150, right? Then the median actually is higher than that, right? And then if you're talking about a senior machine learning engineer, right, the average is about 180, right? And then the median is actually higher than that, right? So that's how I see it, but I don't know the other parts of US or the world, right? Yeah, CA.
Yeah, I think it varies depending on the city and where you're located. And our last question is, can you share latest research problems in AI and machine learning?
Exactly. Autonomous driving is something which is really in the market. I can suggest like about 10 companies that are actually working towards it. Google, Amazon, everybody big. Then there is a problem that is working in every sector. Like autonomous driving also, sensor fusion is one problem. Object detection was one problem. There are a lot of these small things. Supply chain logistics, there are a lot of problems in terms of AI that is developed over there. So it depends on what sector you're looking at. You'll definitely find a plethora of them over there.
Yeah, I would say that, transformers, right? There are a lot of transformers. BERT is one of them, right? Don't try to build anything from scratch, right? Use the transformers and, see how it goes, right? And then obviously if it doesn't work, then you can actually do a bunch of like hybrid, parameter tuning and all that, or, create something later. If it really doesn't work, then you can actually try to create something from scratch, right? So, yeah. And then I think that, obviously there are just too many papers to go through, right? And the one that I'm personally interested in right now is because we're in healthcare, right? How do we then understand someone's mental, health, right, state through all of these signals, IoTs, like we're talking about eye movement, like we're talking about all these like, body measurement, Apple Health Kit, right? Your sleep quality, your steps, like blood pressure, like all of that, right? So I think that, it is something that I'm actually interested right now, that I'm doing a lot of research on. It's because of, the company that I'm working for, right? But obviously IoT, again, that's another topic that I'm super, interested in.
100%.
It's going to be the future. So yes, definitely the big data is happening, streaming data, all of those things, right? So understand how you can process, for instance, streaming data. There are a lot of papers, a lot of publications around that as well, right? How do you actually pipe that? How do you actually create the infrastructure and then the architecture? How do you architect that, right? Like all of those things are pretty hot, right? In terms of, the topics that you can actually put on your to-do list.
Great. Thank you so much. I think that was the last question. I don't know if you have any closing thoughts to finish off the event. I would love to hear from you guys. Just anything you have to say.
I basically had a great time. I hope I was of some use that you spent a good hour listening to both of us speak. Thank you, Jonathan, for all your encouragement in the chat. I think that kept popping up for us to read. I think that's great. If y'all are thinking about it, I think For Geeks Academy is a great place to start. You can definitely look up, and there are different various courses online. You don't have to get overwhelmed about it. It definitely sounds difficult from the inside, but once you step into it, you will enjoy it thoroughly. I totally encourage getting into ML, data science, and everything. It's an awesome place to be in. You'll continuously feel that you're learning something new every day. It's very challenging and a lot of fun. And I had a great time being here. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I mean, thank you so much for the opportunity. I had so much fun. And I think that one thing I will share is that, it's hard, right? But the hardness in this journey is going to make you the hero in your journey, right? So get ready for that, right? Get hyped, right? Stay calm, but get hyped, right? I mean, I just think that again, the space is evolving so fast. It's just so many fascinating things, right? And that's what keeping us young as well, right? Our heart is kind of like, hey, a kid in a candy store. There's so many things we can actually, do and try. And I think, again, it's an endless journey, but it's a fun journey.
Thank you so much for being our speakers. That was amazing. I think your passion, your energy, everything you knew came across perfectly. Thank you so much. It was so much fun to have you guys talk to us for an hour, and I think everybody learned a lot. Willie, sorry, just a quick, what are the benefits of For Geeks Academy? If you want, please give us your email and we'll have our admissions team contact you so they can talk a little bit more about it. Thank you guys for coming so much, and I hope you have a great rest of your Thursday and weekend. So thank you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you. Cool.
Stay safe.
Bye.
Have a wonderful
Stay safe.
night.
Nice day.
Good
Thank
night.
you very much.